My name is Evelyn Curter, and the moment my career cracked happened in a glass conference room at exactly 9:12 a.m. The numbers were already on the screen when I walked in. Red boxes. Sharp lines. A loss so large it made my stomach drop. Directors were seated. Finance leads. Even someone from compliance. My boss sat 2 seats away from me, calm, arms crossed. The VP didn't waste time. Can someone explain why this project failed? I waited. I truly believed my boss would speak. He had approved the final decision. He had pushed the deadline. He had told me not to slow things down. Instead, he sighed and said, "This project was managed by Evelyn." Every eye turned to me. Heat rushed to my face. My mouth went dry. I stared at him, waiting for the rest. The correction. The truth. It never came. "I trusted the execution," he added. Clearly, that was a mistake. I wanted to speak. I wanted to say his name. But the room felt heavy, and power sat everywhere except my chair. "I followed the direction I was given," I said quietly. He nodded once, like I had just proven his point. The meeting ended fast. As people stood, my boss leaned toward me. "We'll address this in your performance review," he said. My calendar buzzed before I even left the room. I didn't go back to my desk. I stood by the window near the elevators, staring at the city, like it could explain what had just happened. I had worked here for 6 years. Late nights. Early mornings. I had built systems people depended on. And in one meeting, I was reduced to a problem that needed to be managed. The worst part wasn't the blame. It was how easily it happened. I replayed the project from the start. The rush email. The skipped review. The message where I hesitated and asked for more time. I could still hear his reply. "We don't have that luxury. Move forward." He had said he would own it. My inbox chimed. Performance review. Updated schedule. Moved up. Priority. HR included. My hands started to shake. Not from fear, at first, but from disbelief. He wasn't even trying to hide it. Back at my desk, coworkers avoided my eyes. A few gave small, awkward smiles. No one asked questions. Silence spread faster than gossip ever could. I opened my laptop, not to work, but to search my sent mail. If I was going down, I needed to know why. And who decided I should fall alone. HR's office smelled like fresh paper and cold coffee. The HR manager smiled the whole time, even when her words cut deep. "This isn't disciplinary," she said. "It's about clarity." Clarity felt like a lie. She talked about concerns, about judgment, about leadership needing confidence under pressure. "I followed approvals," I said. Nothing moved without direction. She nodded, but didn't type that part. "Your manager feels disappointed," she said gently. That hurt more than anger ever could. I left with one clear thought. The story was already written. I just hadn't read it yet. Back at my desk, my boss stopped by. "Rough day," he said kindly. "Try not to stress. Reviews are just conversations." I nodded. I smiled. I thanked him. Inside, something shifted. That night, at home, I opened my laptop again. This time, I wasn't searching randomly. I was building a timeline. Once I organized the facts, patterns appeared. This wasn't the first time my boss pushed risk downward. When projects succeeded, his name went up. When things wobbled, my name appeared quietly inside emails. I found notes I had saved without thinking. Approval chains. Rushed messages. Comments like, "Let's not overthink this." I remembered meetings I wasn't invited to. Corrections sent only to me. Wins that became team efforts once they were safe. I felt angry at myself. But anger didn't help. Order did. I sorted everything by date. Highlighted approvals. Saved backups. At work, my boss became friendlier. He asked about my weekend. Said mistakes happen. Said leadership respected growth. It felt wrong. Then the invitation arrived. Company dinner, executive attendance required. My boss smiled when he saw it. "Good chance to reset," he said. I smiled back. He thought this was ending. I knew it was just starting. The restaurant was warm and loud, full of polished smiles. Everyone acted like nothing bad had happened. I sat near the end of the table. My boss sat close to leadership, confident, comfortable. He stood to speak, talking about leadership and accountability. Not once did he say my name. Then the CEO arrived. The room shifted instantly. During dessert, the CEO raised his glass. "Tough year," he said. "But bonuses helped take the edge off." People laughed. Then he looked at me. "Did yours help?" he asked. I didn't plan my answer. I didn't soften it. "What bonus?" I said. The table went silent. I didn't look at the CEO. I looked at my boss. The silence lasted only seconds, but it felt crushing. My boss laughed first. Too quickly. "That must be an admin mix-up," he said. "We'll sort that out." The CEO smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Strange," he said. "That role qualified." "I assumed it reflected my performance," I said. No one laughed. Conversation returned, but something had shifted. People watched my boss differently. When dinner ended, he left fast. Didn't walk with me. Phone already in his hand. The next morning, a meeting appeared on my calendar. Subject: alignment discussion. Behind his closed office door, he said, "You blindsided me." I answered a question. I replied. "You need to be careful," he said. "Reviews are coming." "I understand," I said. And I meant it. Because for the first time since that meeting, the story was no longer fully in his control. "You've been quiet," he said. "I'm working," I replied. He nodded. "That's good. Staying aligned matters." I waited. "We don't need to bring every detail into the review," he added. "Leadership wants solutions, not blame." There it was. "I agree," I said. He relaxed slightly. "Good. We're a team." I smiled politely and left. At my desk, a message from HR waited. "Please submit your self-review and any supporting materials by end of day." I attached my document. No cover letter. No explanation. Just facts. Time-stamped truth. When I hit send, my hands didn't shake. The waiting did. The performance review room was larger than the one where it all began. Long table. Neutral walls. Water bottles placed evenly. HR sat on one side. Leadership on the other. My boss sat across from me, confident again. He spoke first. About pressure. Expectations. Lessons learned. He never said my name, but every word pointed at me. When it was my turn, I didn't defend myself. I walked through the timeline, step by step. Approval by approval. No blame. No anger. Just sequence. "Why was testing skipped?" an executive asked. "It wasn't," I said calmly. "It was shortened by instruction." "Who approved that?" I slid the printed emails across the table. Silence. HR cleared their throat. "We need a moment." They asked my boss to step outside. He stood slowly. He didn't look at me. The door closed, and the room felt lighter. "Thank you for being thorough," HR said. Leadership asked real questions this time. How I handled pressure. Why I didn't escalate. What support I needed. I believed responsibility flowed upward. I said. I was wrong. No one interrupted. When my boss returned, the tone had changed. The issue wasn't execution. It was leadership. The review ended without decisions, but the shift was clear. As we left, an executive paused beside me. "Thank you for your professionalism," she said quietly. For the first time since the fall, I felt steady again. The days after felt stretched and unreal. My boss avoided me. He stopped asking for updates. When we passed in the hallway, he nodded once and looked away. HR stayed silent. That silence was louder than any warning. I kept working. If anything, I became more careful. Every task documented. Every approval confirmed in writing. One afternoon, I was invited to a meeting I'd never attended before. Senior leaders were there. My boss wasn't. They asked for my input. They listened. That felt new. Later, HR emailed. Subject: follow-up discussion. My heart raced. I wondered what my boss was telling himself. That this would pass? That leadership would forget? I didn't know what was coming. But I knew the ground under him wasn't solid anymore. The follow-up meeting was small. Just HR, one executive, and me. They thanked me for my patience. Then came the question. Have there been other situations like this? I paused. Not because I lacked answers, but because I understood the weight of the moment. Yes, I said carefully. Not as public, but similar. I explained patterns. Not accusations. Just observations. When I finished, the executive nodded. That aligns with what we're seeing, she said. Seeing. Not suspecting. I left the room lighter and sadder. I had trusted someone who saw me as a shield. That afternoon, my boss called. You didn't have to go that far, he said. I told the truth, I replied. Truth has consequences. Yes, I said. It does. The consequences came slowly. My boss stopped being copied on key emails. Decisions once made alone were now discussed in groups. Meetings he led were reassigned. People noticed. What did you do? A coworker whispered. Nothing, I said. That was the truth. HR asked me to take over a temporary review process. Just for coverage. It felt strange. Heavy. Empowering. Later, I overheard my boss arguing. I've delivered for years, he said. A calm voice replied, This is about accountability. That word again. Accountability. I didn't celebrate. I just worked. Because I knew it wasn't over yet. The official notice came on a Friday. My boss was reassigned pending leadership review. He packed quietly. As he passed my desk, he stopped. This didn't have to happen, he said. It already did, I replied. He nodded once and walked away. I felt no joy, only relief. Leadership met with me later that day. They thanked me, spoke about trust, growth, resilience. They asked about my goals. No one had asked that in a long time. The next week, my calendar filled up. Not punishments. Opportunities. I was invited early. Asked for feedback. Trusted. The fear that once lived in my chest was gone. In its place was something steadier. Respect. I closed the timeline folder. I didn't need it anymore. The fall had hurt, but it revealed something important. I wasn't weak. I was prepared. Months later, I spoke at an internal event about leadership under pressure. I didn't name names. I ended with one sentence. Leadership isn't about who takes credit when things work. It's about who stands still when they don't. The room was quiet. Then people applauded. I sometimes think about that first meeting. The red numbers. The silence. I'm not angry anymore. That moment showed me who I was and who I could be. My name is Evelyn Curter. I didn't win by destroying anyone. I won by refusing to disappear. The fall hurt, but the rise was mine. After everything settled, I thought things would go back to normal. They didn't. People started stopping by my desk. Not all at once. One at a time. Quietly. At first, it was small things. A coworker asked how to document approvals better. Another asked if it was okay to put concerns in writing instead of saying them out loud in meetings. I just want to be careful, they said. I understood exactly what they meant. Then something bigger happened. During a planning meeting, a team lead paused before agreeing to a rushed deadline. Can we get that approval in writing? She asked. The room went still. No one laughed. No one rolled their eyes. Leadership nodded. That's fair, someone said. I looked around the table and realized what was happening. People weren't afraid to slow things down anymore. They weren't hiding behind silence. A week later, someone else spoke up. This decision affects 3 teams, he said. We should review it together. Again, no pushback. Just discussion. Just accountability. Later that day, the junior analyst who once thanked me stopped by again. I spoke up today, she said, smiling. I've never done that before. I smiled back. It gets easier, I told her. And it did. HR rolled out clearer reporting paths. Leadership encouraged questions instead of speed. Meetings changed tone. Decisions had names attached to them. One afternoon, a coworker said something that stayed with me. You didn't just stand up for yourself, she said. You showed us we're allowed to. I hadn't planned that. I hadn't asked for it. I had just refused to disappear. And somehow, that gave others permission to stay visible too. That's when I understood the real impact. Justice didn't just correct one mistake. It changed how people behaved afterward. And that was the kind of win that lasted. They settled in slowly, the way trust does when it's finally allowed to exist. Meetings became different. People paused before agreeing too quickly. Someone always asked, "Is this documented?" And no one treated that question like a problem anymore. I noticed it most in the quiet moments. A teammate stayed after a meeting to double-check a decision. Another sent an email confirming a call that would have once stayed verbal. Small things. Careful things. Safer things. One afternoon, I walked past a conference room and heard raised voices. My chest tightened out of habit. Then I listened. They weren't arguing. They were disagreeing. Openly, respectfully, without fear. I kept walking, smiling to myself. Later that week, leadership sent out a message.
Short. Direct.
They thanked teams for speaking up early and said accountability was now a shared responsibility at every level. No names. No blame. Just clarity. The junior analyst stopped by my desk again. "I asked for more time on a deadline," she said. "And they said yes." She looked proud.
Surprised.
I remembered how impossible that once felt. "You did the right thing," I said. She nodded. "So did you." That night, as I packed up to leave, I thought about how close I came to staying quiet, to accepting blame that wasn't mine, to shrinking just to survive. I didn't change the company by being loud. I changed it by being clear, by standing still when it mattered. My name is Evelyn Curter. I learned that courage doesn't always look like a fight. Sometimes it looks like truth, spoken once, calmly, and backed by facts. And sometimes that's enough to change everything.